When someone moves on fast, it's not healing, it's escaping. You still think he's happy without you. You still believe he's moved on. Let me break it to you, he's not. He's lying to himself, and he's lying to you. And you're still feeding that lie by watching, waiting, and hoping. Wake up. How much longer will you keep fooling yourself? How much longer will you keep staring at his social media, over-analyzing every post, reading between the lines of a man who doesn't even care? How much longer will you keep telling yourself, he looks happy, maybe he never loved me, maybe she's better than me, maybe I was the problem? Stop. Right. Now. Every second you waste on him is another second you steal from yourself. And for what? For a man who replaced you like you were nothing? For a man who's out there laughing, drinking, and pretending you never mattered? Press the like button, not for me, but for yourself. Let this be the first step in taking your power back. And while you're at it, subscribe, because this isn't just another video, this is your wake-up call, and I am not here to hold your hand. I am here to make sure you never make this mistake again. Welcome back to the channel, my dear. You're here because something deep inside you knows the truth, but you don't want to face it. You want to believe that he's moved on, that he's truly happy without you. But let's be real, if he was so happy, why does he need to show it off? Why does he need to post about it? Why does he need to make sure the whole world sees how good he's doing? Because it's all a performance. He is not happy. He is not at peace. He is playing pretend. And the fact that you are still watching, still wondering, still hurting, that's exactly what he wants. Let me ask you something. If he was truly at peace, wouldn't he just live his life? Do happy people sit around trying to prove their happiness? Do people who have truly moved on make sure their ex sees them with someone new? No, because real happiness is quiet. A lion doesn't need to announce he's a lion, but a weak man needs to scream it from the rooftops, hoping you, will believe the lie. Let me tell you a story. A woman I helped, let's call her Sarah, was just like you. Her ex moved on fast. Within a month, he was flashing his new love all over social media. She thought, maybe he really is happier without me. She thought, maybe I was the problem. She tortured herself, stalking his pages, watching his new life unfold like a slow, painful movie. Until one day, she saw something, a tiny detail in the background of one of his posts. His new girl was wearing Sarah's hoodie, the same hoodie she had left at his place, the same hoodie he once begged her to wear because he loved how it smelled like her. And that's when it hit her. He hadn't moved on. He was recycling his past. He was replaying the same game, the same routine, with a new woman who didn't know any better. That's when she blocked him, deleted everything, and started over. 3 months later, he was the one texting, begging, calling from different numbers. And she didn't even bother to read the messages. Because here's what men like him don't tell you. They don't replace you. They just distract themselves. He is not sitting there reflecting on his mistakes. He is not growing. He is not evolving. He is running from his guilt, running from his emptiness, running from the void you left behind. And the only way he can keep up the illusion is if you keep believing it. So why are you still watching? Why are you still hurting over a man who is out there faking his happiness just to make sure you still feel small? Who fed you the lie that love means suffering in silence? Who told you that patience, loyalty, and endless forgiveness would finally make a man change? Because they lied to you. Society lied to you. The movies, the books, the love songs, they all told you that if you just love hard enough, if you just prove yourself, he will finally wake up and love you back. but he won't. Because love doesn't work like that. Love isn't supposed to break you. Love isn't supposed to feel like this. So say this with me: I refuse to believe the lie. Type it in the comments. Let the universe see it. Let him feel it. And most importantly, let yourself own it. You have spent enough time crying over a man who was never worth your tears. And this is just the beginning. Because in the next section, I'm going to expose every ugly truth about why his happiness is nothing but a desperate act. It's time to break free. It's time to wake up. It's time to see the truth. Stay with me, because after this, you will never see him the same way again. Number 1. If he was really happy, he wouldn't need to show it. So, my dear, how much longer will you let a curated highlight reel dictate your self-worth? How much longer will you let filtered photos and fake smiles convince you that you were never enough? You sit there, scrolling through his posts, watching his new life unfold, and with every picture, every caption, every laugh that seems a little too loud, you sink deeper into the lie that says he's happy without you, the lie that whispers he's moved on and you were just a stepping stone. But let me ask you this: if he was truly happy, why does he need an audience? Why does he need to make sure you see it? Real happiness doesn't perform. Real happiness doesn't need validation. A lion doesn't roar to prove he's a lion, he just is. But a man who is drowning, a man who is desperate to make sure he looks like he's winning, that man puts on a show. You think those smiling pictures mean something? You think that new girl means he's forgotten you? Wake up. If he was truly at peace, he would be silent. Because happy people don't need to prove anything to anyone. Do you know why people who have everything in life disappear from social media? Why do you think some of the richest, most successful people post less and less as they truly start enjoying life? Because happiness is quiet. Contentment is still. You know who needs to prove something? The ones who are losing. The ones who need the world's applause to convince themselves they're okay. A woman wrote to me once. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa's ex moved on in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Suddenly, he was taking this new woman on vacations, writing long romantic captions, calling her the love of his life. Lisa was devastated. She convinced herself that everything they had must have meant nothing. She convinced herself that he had finally found his soulmate, and it wasn't her. She cried, she stalked, she obsessed over every detail. She felt replaceable. And then, a few months later, she found out he was texting her late at night, asking how she was, reminiscing about old times, telling her he never really got closure. That's when it hit her. He wasn't happy. He was distracting himself. He wasn't in love. He was running. But for months, she let a man's performance shatter her sense of worth. And you're doing the same thing. You are breaking yourself over an illusion, over a story carefully crafted to make you think he's winning, so you keep losing. And the worst part? Society has trained you to believe in this fairy tale. They told you that love means pain, that suffering in silence makes you a good woman, that waiting, hoping, and proving yourself is the key to finally deserving the love you dream of. You were raised on movies where the girl chased, waited, endured, and in the end, he came back transformed, finally ready to love her, and you believed it. You absorbed it. But let me tell you something no one ever did. Love isn't supposed to feel like this. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. Real love doesn't leave you staring at a screen, feeling like you weren't good enough. Love is not a competition. Love is not something you have to prove. So why are you still competing? Why are you still measuring your value based on how quickly he moved on? Why are you still letting yourself be reduced to a footnote in his life? Enough. It's time to stop feeding the lie. It's time to stop acting like your healing depends on his suffering. Because listen to me, his suffering is coming. The moment the performance ends, the moment the mask slips, he will feel the weight of what he lost. But by then, you won't care. So what do you do now? You rise. And let me be clear, rising does not mean pretending it doesn't hurt. This pain, feel it. Let it rip through you. Let it burn. Let it break you open. Because from that breaking, something new will grow. Pain is the fire that forges you. The deeper it cuts, the stronger you become. And I know right now, you feel like you will never get past this. You feel like you'll never love again, that this ache in your chest will never leave. But I promise you, one day you'll wake up and the weight will be gone. You won't care if he's happy. You won't check his page. You won't even remember the sound of his laugh. Because the woman you are becoming, she has no room for this pain. But to get there, you have to stop feeding the fire. You have to cut off the source. No more checking his updates. No more asking about him. No more scrolling through memories of someone who was never meant to stay. Block, delete, erase. Let the silence teach him what your presence never could. And let yourself finally breathe. You have spent so much time carrying the weight of this heartbreak, but do you even realize what that means? That means you are strong enough to carry something even greater. Your future, your success, your new life. And one day, when he's sitting there, staring at his phone, realizing that the performance is over and you're not watching anymore, he will feel the emptiness. He will feel it, and he will drown in it. But you will be too busy living. Say this with me. I break the lie. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. And most importantly, let yourself own it. Because in the next section, we are going even deeper. We are going to talk about why his new relationship isn't love. It's just a distraction. You don't want to miss this. Stay with me. Because after this, you will never see him the same way again. Number 2, he's trying to make you jealous because he's the one who's jealous. So, my dear, do you really think he's happy? Do you really believe his life is better without you? If that were true, why does he need to keep proving it? Why does he need to shove it in your face like a desperate salesman trying to convince you he's got something worth buying? Because he doesn't. He's not showing off because he's happy. He's showing off because he wants to make you miserable. And you're giving him exactly what he wants. Every time you check his page, every time you see his new, better life and feel that punch in your gut, you are feeding his ego. Every time you cry over him, replaying your memories, convincing yourself that he's thriving while you're breaking, you are giving him power. And for what? For a man who needs to stage his own happiness because deep down, he's empty. Wake up. The truth is, he's jealous of you. Yes, you heard me. The same man who broke you, who walked away like you meant nothing, is watching you. He's checking to see if you're struggling, if you're falling apart, if you're still waiting in the shadows while he pretends to shine. He expected you to chase him. He expected you to be sitting by the phone, waiting for his name to pop up. But now that you're not, now that you've gone silent, he's panicking. Let me tell you a story. A woman I came across on Reddit shared how her ex moved on instantly. 1 week after their breakup, he had a new girlfriend, posting couple selfies, writing deep poetic captions about how she changed his life. She thought he had found real love. She thought she had been replaced by someone better. But then, she found out from a mutual friend that this same man who was so in love, was still asking about her, still trying to find out if she was dating anyone, still bringing her up in conversation, still watching her stories. Does that sound like a man who's happy? A man who is truly happy, truly at peace, doesn't sit around tracking his past. A lion doesn't need to roar to prove he's a king. He just is. But a weak man has to scream for attention, and that's exactly what he's doing. So why are you still falling for it? Why are you still letting a man like this take up space in your mind? A man who didn't appreciate you when he had you, but now needs to remind you what you've lost. What exactly did you lose? A man who only feels valuable when he's making you doubt yourself. That's not a loss, my dear. That's a win. And I know, right now, it doesn't feel like one. I know it still hurts. It hurts because you were taught to measure your worth by how much someone chooses you. Society has been feeding you this lie since you were a little girl. The idea that a man's attention defines your value. The idea that if he moves on quickly, you weren't good enough. If he seems happy without you, you failed. But what if I told you, he's not the prize, you are? What if I told you that his desperate performance has nothing to do with his happiness and everything to do with the power you once gave him? He wants you to believe he's thriving because the moment you stop believing it, his illusion falls apart. And that terrifies him. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to stop checking. You're going to stop giving him the reaction he so desperately wants. You're going to rise so high that his games become irrelevant. And when he realizes you're not watching anymore, when he realizes he no longer has access to your emotions, that's when he truly loses. Say this with me. I take my power back. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. And stay with me, because in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly why his new relationship isn't love. It's just a temporary distraction. And when you see the truth, you will never envy her again. Stay tuned. Your rise has just begun. Number 3. The new girl isn't special, she's just next. So, my dear, you're still torturing yourself over her, aren't you? The new girl, the one he's flaunting, the one he's calling his happiness, his peace, his forever. You see her, and you crumble inside. You compare yourself. You ask yourself, was she better? Was I the problem? Did he change for her? Let me stop you right there. She's not better. She's just next. Oh, he's got a new woman. Good. Let her deal with his nonsense now. Because guess what? He didn't magically wake up and decide to be a better man. He didn't suddenly transform into the loyal, loving, emotionally mature partner you begged him to be. He's still the same. The only thing that's different, she doesn't know it yet. And that's what's eating you alive, isn't it? You see him showering her with affection, doing things for her he never did for you, saying the words you prayed he'd say. You think, maybe he just needed the right woman. Maybe she healed him. Maybe he loves her more than he ever loved me. Stop. Why do you think he changed for her? Because she's special? No, because he's still playing the same game. Let's get one thing straight. He's not in love. He's in a honeymoon phase. He's in that new car smell stage where everything feels exciting and effortless. But new doesn't mean better. New just means temporary. How do I know? Because history repeats itself. Let me tell you about a woman I once helped. We'll call her Olivia. Olivia was with a man who made her feel like she was never enough. He strung her along, made her fight for his love, made her believe that if she just proved herself one day, he'd finally give her the commitment she wanted, but he never did. And then, just like that, he met another woman. Within a few months, he was engaged. Olivia was shattered. She thought, so he can commit. He just didn't want to commit to me. Fast forward a year, that perfect new relationship destroyed. She found out he cheated on his new wife the same way he cheated before, the same emotional neglect, the same manipulation, the same cycle, just with a different woman in his bed. Because listen to me and let this sink in. How he treated you is how he will treat her, because the problem was never you. A man doesn't suddenly become faithful, kind, and emotionally available overnight. Change requires deep work, accountability, and pain, not a new relationship. And you know damn well he hasn't done any of that. He's just repeating the cycle. And do you know what else? He wants you to see it. He wants you to compare yourself. He wants you to sit there, wondering if she's prettier, smarter, more fun, more valuable. Because as long as you're watching, he still has control over you. And let's talk about her, the new woman. You think she's winning? She's not winning. Right now, she's just wearing your old shoes, walking the same path you walked, except she doesn't see the cliff ahead yet. She's getting the same love bombing, the same fake promises, the same scripted performance you once fell for. And one day, she'll be sitting where you are, wondering why she wasn't good enough, why he suddenly changed, why the man who once adored her became cold and distant. Do you know how I know this? Because it's what men like him do. So stop making this about her. Stop making this about you. This is about him, about his patterns, about the fact that he is still the same weak man, running from himself, using women as distractions instead of doing the work to become better. So what do you do now? You let her have him. Let her be the one who has to deal with the silent treatment, the manipulation, the same tired mind games. You set yourself free. Because while she's stuck in the same nightmare you just escaped from, you're rebuilding, you're rising, you're becoming untouchable. And one day, when she figures it out, when she finally sees through him the way you do now, she will be the one looking at you, realizing that you weren't the loser in this story. You were the one who got out. Say this with me: I refuse to compare. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. Because in the next section, we're diving into why men like him don't change, unless life forces them to suffer. And trust me, his suffering is coming. Stay tuned. Your glow up is just beginning. Number 4. Men don't change unless they suffer. So, my dear, you're still waiting, aren't you? Still hoping, still sitting there telling yourself, one day he's going to wake up. One day he's going to realize what he lost. One day he's going to come back, changed, begging, regretting. No, he won't. You think love changes men? It doesn't. Pain does. Loss does. Consequences do. A man like him doesn't suddenly wake up with a heart full of regret because he misses you. He doesn't become a better man because he loves you deep down. No. He only learns when life forces him to suffer. And you're sitting here waiting for karma to hit him like a train, as if that's your closure. You're waiting for the day he falls apart, the day he realizes he threw away the best thing in his life. And that's why you still check his page. That's why you still ask mutual friends, still stalk his new relationship, still hope to hear that he's not doing as great as he pretends. But listen to me and listen carefully. That's not your job. It is not your job to teach him a lesson. It is not your job to wait for his downfall. It is not your job to hope that life will break him for you. You think karma works on your timeline. You think just because you're hurting now, the universe is going to speed up his suffering. No, my dear, that's not how it works. Men like him don't change unless life forces them to. And you sitting around, keeping tabs, waiting for the moment he finally gets it, all you're doing is keeping yourself in chains. Let me tell you a story. A guy I once knew, let's call him Jake, was exactly like your ex. Thought he was untouchable, had a good woman by his side, but took her for granted, ghosted her, thought he could do better. He partied, dated younger women, lived his best life. And for years, it looked like he was winning. But then, life happened. By the time he was 35, the fun was over. The party friends were gone. The younger women moved on to younger men. He was broke, lonely, and had nothing to show for his choices. One night, drunk and miserable, he texted his ex, the same woman he treated like an afterthought. And guess what? She didn't even reply. Because by then, she was married to a man who actually valued her. That's how life works. Not on your schedule, not when you're watching, not when you're hoping for it. You sitting around waiting for him to fall. That's like standing by the ocean, waiting for a wave to crash where you want it to. It's coming, but not when you expect. And you know what else? You won't even care by then. You won't need his regret. You won't need his apology. You won't need to hear the words, "I should have treated you better," because by the time he gets hit by his own karma, you will have outgrown him so much that his pain won't even register in your world. He's like a spoiled child. Until the world stops handing him everything, he won't learn. And that's why you need to stop waiting for it. Stop checking on him. Stop wondering. Stop hoping. You don't heal by waiting for his suffering. You heal by letting go completely. So what do you do now? You shift your focus. You pour every ounce of energy you wasted on him back into yourself. You rise, you grow, you thrive, you disappear so completely from his life that when he finally does wake up, you're not just gone, you're untouchable. And when that day comes, when he's sitting there staring at his phone, realizing that he lost the best thing he ever had, you won't need revenge. You won't need an apology. You will just smile, because by then, his regret won't matter anymore. Say this with me: I stop waiting. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're going to talk about what happens when you finally cut him off completely, and why that's the moment his world truly falls apart. Stay tuned. The best is yet to come. Number 5. He expects you to wait, so disappoint him. So, my dear, tell me something. Are you really going to sit here and wait for a man who threw you away like yesterday's trash? Are you really going to keep checking your phone, hoping that one day he wakes up and realizes what he lost? Because that's exactly what he thinks you'll do. He expects you to wait. He expects you to be exactly where he left you, still hoping, still hurting, still available the moment he decides he wants you back. Are you really going to prove him right? Because let me tell you something about men like him. They don't leave because they're done with you. They leave because they're testing you. They leave because they want to see if you'll break without them. They leave because they think you'll always be an option. And the reason he doesn't respect you, because so far, you've given him no reason to. You keep waiting. You keep checking on him. You keep falling into the trap of what if? And as long as you keep doing that, he knows that no matter what he does, you'll still be there. Not anymore. Because today, you're going to disappoint him. Let me tell you about a woman I once worked with. Let's call her Emily. Emily loved her ex like you love yours, deeply, blindly, stupidly. He walked all over her, played mind games, strung her along for years, and then one day, he just left. No real explanation, no closure. He just moved on. She was devastated. She cried every night. She stalked his new girlfriend. She convinced herself that if she just waited long enough, he'd come back. But something inside her snapped. She realized that every day she wasted waiting for a man who chose to leave was a day she was betraying herself. So she did something she never thought she could. She disappeared. No texts, no stalking, no emotional outbursts, just silence. And guess what? 1 year later, he came crawling back. Suddenly, he was the one reaching out. Suddenly, he was the one saying, "I've been thinking about you. I miss you. I made a mistake." But by then, she didn't want him anymore, because she had spent that year becoming a woman he could no longer access. And that is the only revenge you will ever need. Because here's the truth. If you take him back, you teach him that hurting you has no consequences. You teach him that he can walk away whenever he wants, do whatever he wants, and you'll still be there, waiting like a fool. You don't want an apology. You don't want revenge. You want to become the woman who doesn't even look in his direction, because that's what kills him. That's what destroys the ego of a man like him. Not your pain, not your anger, but your complete and utter indifference. You have two choices right now. Prove him right or prove him wrong. You can keep waiting, keep hoping, keep letting him have power over you. Keep being exactly the woman he expects you to be, weak, emotional, easy to manipulate. Or you can shock the hell out of him, disappear, go silent, show him that the version of you who used to beg, cry, and wait, she no longer exists. Because the best revenge is no revenge, no anger, no bitterness, no need to prove anything. Just moving on so completely that he becomes irrelevant. And when he finally realizes you're not waiting anymore, when he realizes he's lost the one thing he thought he'd always have, that's when he will feel it. But by then, you won't care. Say this with me: I disappoint him. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. Because in the next section, I'm going to show you how to cut him off completely. No games, no hesitation, just pure, unstoppable silence. Stay tuned. It's time to disappear. Number 6. Block, delete, erase. It's time to go ghost. So, my dear, how much longer are you going to do this to yourself? How much longer are you going to sit there, refreshing his page, analyzing his photos, feeding yourself poison and calling it closure? Stop. Today is the day you disappear. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you're ready. Right now. Because let's get real. He's not checking on you. So why are you checking on him? You think he's sitting there at 2 a.m. scrolling through your pictures, reading old texts, crying over what he lost? No. He's living his life. He's laughing. He's doing whatever the hell he wants without a second thought about what it's doing to you. And yet, here you are, watching, waiting, torturing yourself, keeping him alive in your world when he left you behind in his. So let me ask you, why are you keeping the door open for someone who walked out on you? It ends today. No more stalking his page, No more checking to see if he watched your story. No more just one last look. Block, delete, erase. Not because you're petty, not because you want to hurt him, but because you are finally choosing yourself. Because listen to me carefully, the less you react, the more he will feel your absence. Let me tell you about a woman I once helped. We'll call her Maya. Maya was stuck in the same cycle you're in now. Stalking, overthinking, hoping for a sign. But one day, something in her snapped. She was done. She deleted every picture, blocked every number, erased every trace of him from her life. At first, nothing. No reaction from him. Silence. But then, the panic set in. A month later, he started reaching out. First, a casual text. Then, a long email. Then, desperate attempts through mutual friends. By the time he finally tried showing up at her door, she was already gone. Not physically, emotionally. And that's what broke him. Because you don't destroy a man like him by yelling, crying, or playing games. You destroy him by vanishing. You are the oxygen to his fire. Take it away and watch him suffocate. But don't do it for him. Do it for you. Do it because every time you check his page, you reopen a wound that should be healing. Do it because every time you answer his text, you remind him that you're still an option. Do it because every time you leave the door open, you are choosing to stay in a place where you are no longer valued. It's time to go ghost. Not half-heartedly, not just on social media, everywhere. Delete his number. No more drunk texting temptations. Block him. No more random messages just when you're starting to heal. Erase every reminder. No more scrolling through old photos, listening to your song, replaying the past. The past is gone. Because the truth is, he expects you to be watching. He expects you to keep the door open. He expects you to linger in his shadow while he moves on, like nothing happened. So, what are you going to do? Prove him right? Or make him feel your absence so deeply that it haunts him? Disappoint him. Let him wonder where you went. Let him sit in silence, confused, unsettled. Let him realize, too late, that he can no longer reach you. Because by the time he figures out that you're gone, you'll be too far ahead to care. Say this with me. I disappear. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. And stay with me, because in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you go silent, why it shatters his ego, and why your absence will become the one thing he can't ignore. Stay tuned. This is where the real power begins. Number 7. Rebuild. Be the woman he can never have again. So, my dear, how much longer are you going to let him live inside your head, rent-free? How much longer are you going to let a man who walked away control your mind, your emotions, your future? Enough. It is time, right now, to stop thinking about him and start thinking about you. Because here's the hard truth you don't want to admit. You have spent more time worrying about him than you have spent building yourself. You have wasted energy checking on his life, replaying old memories, mourning something that should have never been yours in the first place. And for what? Did it bring him back? No. Did it heal your heart? No. Did it make you feel strong? No. Then why are you still doing it? Wake up. He is not your problem anymore. He is not your future, your business, your responsibility. You are. Right now, you have a choice to make. You can stay stuck in this cycle, watching, waiting, overanalyzing, or you can rise. You can become the woman he can never have again. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because you owe it to yourself. Because you were never meant to be the woman who begs, who waits, who lets a man define her worth. Because let me tell you what happens when a woman decides to stop waiting and start rebuilding. Let me tell you about a woman named Sophie. Sophie was shattered when her ex left. She did what you're doing now, stalking, overthinking, comparing herself to the new girl, drowning in self-doubt. Until one day, she snapped. She got up, she looked in the mirror, and she decided she was done being the girl who cried over a man who didn't deserve her. She poured every ounce of energy she wasted on him back into herself. She hit the gym, she traveled, she started a business, she leveled up so hard that by the time her ex came crawling back, she barely recognized the woman she had become. And when he begged for another chance, when he tried to tell her he messed up, she laughed in his face. Because by then, she didn't want him anymore. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to become so focused on your glow-up that he becomes a forgotten chapter. Here's how. 1. Focus on your body, not for him, for you. Move your body, build your strength, become the healthiest version of yourself. You know why? Because when your body is strong, your mind follows. 2. Find a passion that sets your soul on fire. Something that has nothing to do with him. Dance, art, writing, fitness, business. Find what makes you come alive again. 3. Upgrade your life. Money, career, education, skills. Grow so much that you never again feel like a man is your only source of happiness. 4. Surround yourself with power. Cut out the people who make you doubt yourself. Build a circle of winners. Women who remind you of your worth. People who push you forward instead of holding you back. 5. Get out of your comfort zone. Travel. Try new things. Go places you've never been. The world is bigger than the tiny little space you built around your heartbreak. 6. Protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. And he's not worth a single drop of it. You are not the same woman he left. You are becoming something greater. And here's the truth that will burn him the most. One day, he's going to wake up and realize he can never have access to you again. Not because you hate him, not because you're punishing him, but because you outgrew him. By the time he realizes what he lost, you'll be so far ahead that his existence won't even matter anymore. Say this with me. I rebuild for me. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let him feel it. Let yourself believe it. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're going to talk about what happens when his ego finally crumbles. What happens when he realizes he lost a woman he can never replace. And by then, you won't even care. Stay tuned. Your rise is just beginning. Number 8. Final step. Make him a ghost in your memory. So, my dear, this is it. The final step. The last piece of this puzzle. The moment you finally set yourself free, he's already dead to you. Now act like it. You've cried enough, you've analyzed enough, you've spent enough sleepless nights replaying the past, wondering what if, why me, did I ever mean anything? Enough. Every second you spend thinking about him is a second stolen from your future. Do you hear me? Every time you wonder if he misses you, every time you check his page, just one last time. Every time you let the thought of him ruin your mood, your day, your confidence, you are letting him win. And for what? A man who treated you like an option, a man who didn't appreciate you when he had you, A man who expected you to break, to wait, to always be available. No, he is nothing now, a ghost, a memory that doesn't even deserve a place in your mind. Because you know what's worse than losing someone: becoming irrelevant to them. He doesn't deserve your love. He doesn't deserve your hate. He doesn't even deserve your thoughts. Let me tell you something about closure. You think it comes from a final conversation, an apology, a heartfelt, "I'm sorry, I messed up." It doesn't. Closure isn't given, closure is taken. And today, you're taking it. Today, you make a choice. Not to forgive him, not to wait for karma, not to hope he suffers, but to erase him so completely from your life that he may as well have never existed. Because the day you stop caring is the day he loses all power over you. And that's what this was all about, wasn't it? Power. He had it when you chased, when you cried, when you kept looking for proof that he still cared. But the moment you stop, the moment you don't check, don't react, don't feel, he is nothing. This is where you win. This is where you walk away without a single ounce of regret. This is where you stop being the girl who got left behind and start being the woman who rose from the ashes and never looked back. So here's what you're going to do. Right now, you're going to write "I choose me" in the comments, not for me, for you. For every night you stayed up crying, for every second you wasted doubting yourself, for every time you settled for less than you deserved. This is your final declaration. You were never the weak one, you were just blind. But now you see. And what's coming next? A version of you so powerful, so untouchable, that the past won't even recognize you. This is the end of the pain and the beginning of your rise. Are you ready? Then let the universe hear it. I choose me. And there you have it. You made it, my dear. This is your moment. No more waiting, no more hurting, only rising. If this hit home, like, share and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of your glow up. Drop "I choose me" in the comments and let the universe hear it. Your new life starts now.